All right, you're listening to 91.5 WUML Lowell Blues Deluxe, and it's my honor to have Malcom Bruce on with me today. Hello, Malcolm. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing really well. Nice to be here.
I'm glad you're in New Jersey today,
I am in New Jersey.
Asbury Park, right?
Yeah, I have a day off today. We're driving tonight to Connecticut, but we thought we'd just hit the beach, as it were. So we're in Asbury Park. I'm literally sitting in a cafe on the boardwalk. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous day. It's not too busy. But yeah, so it's kind of ad hoc, I guess is the right phrase for this.
You're going to be playing in Sellersville on Friday, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
That's a nice place you're playing.
Yeah, I've played there before, once or twice. So a lot of these venues on this run I've played a few times.
So
So I'm looking forward to going back.
where are you originally from? I know you're from England, probably.
I'm still from England. Yeah, I live in London. I've spent so much time over here. I probably sound a little transatlantic sometimes.
You got a
My,
Yankees hat on, a red Yankees
I've got a
hat.
Yankees hat on, but if I
Yeah.
go, like, can't see it if I do that. But yes, that's not because I'm a Yankees fan. It's because I have no idea what a Yankees cap is. I just bought it in a store,
There you go.
like an ignorant person.
So growing up, what were you listening to growing up? I know you had your dad; he was playing like crazy, so you probably got some stuff from him. But who else were you listening to as a kid that outside of your dad's stuff?
When I was a kid, I mean, I guess early formative memories. My dad gave me a sort of Jimi Hendrix compilation called Stone Free. That was a very early rock rock record that I remember having. But I was also he would give me stuff like Ravel and Debussy as well. And so very early on, I have memories of hearing Cream um, and a lot of the jazz things that he was doing. You know, I was a little bit young when he was working with Tony Williams, but people would stay with us. People like Tony Williams and Larry Coryell would be living with us for periods of time, and a little later on, Alan Holdsworth would come and play with my dad at our house, or John Heisman from Coliseum or whatever.
Wow.
Um, so those things were just around me. His different collaborations. When I was around 8 or 9, he had a band with Bruce Gary from the Knack was around. Billy Cobham was around. Clem Clemson, the guitarist from Humble Pie and Coliseum. David
So,
Sanchez,
so
who
you so
is
you
worth
start
mentioning.
you start lots of people coming in and out of your house.
Yeah, and David Sanchez is worth mentioning because obviously he was one of the original members of
E
Bruce
Street Band.
Springsteen's
Yep.
E Street Band, and I believe David still. I haven't emailed him, but I think he still lives in Asbury Park, where I am right now.
Wow.
So
That's great. So how'd you know you were going to be a musician growing up? As you were growing up, what made you decide you wanted to follow in your dad's
I'm
footsteps?
not sure I had a choice. Like if my dad had been a lawyer, maybe I'd have a bigger bank balance. No, I mean it's. I think you grow up. Sometimes it's just natural. You gravitate to whatever
Yep.
your parents might be doing, and because I had instruments in our home, I was playing the piano from the age of 5, and I still play the piano. Um, the classical repertoire, all of that. I have a very wide interest in music and creativity. So I think it was just the environment. So from very early on, I think from the age of 9 or 10, I knew this is what I'm going to do in my life. I'd kind of made that decision for
And you're a
myself.
multi instrumentalist. You're not just a bass player. You play guitar. You play keyboard. You play everything, just about.
Well, not everything, but certainly, yeah. I mean, I would say that I'm a guitarist, a piano player, and a bass player and a singer. Um, but yes, if you want some bad violin, or some even worse drumming, I'm your man.
But at least you
But
try. That's good. At least you try. That's good.
I'm a trier, exactly. Yeah. But you know, that's the nature. I mean, my dad played quite a few instruments. You know, he's best known as a bass player, but we had Hammond organs and pianos and all kinds of things lying around. So it was very natural for me to get into all of those things. And I've certainly studied, you know, in terms of the classical tradition, I've studied the piano for many years and continue to do that.
That's interesting that he turned you on to that at an early age, classical music, because you're still talking about it today, which is good.
Well, I'm writing an opera myself. I'm writing as a composer. I'm writing in multiple genres. I'm writing songs as a songwriter, but I'm also pursuing all these other things too. And you know, my dad himself is best known as the bass player, singer in Cream. But that was a 2.5 year part of his career that was, you know, 55 years or whatever, and he did all kinds of things over the years. From, as I mentioned before, you know, he was in a band called Lifetime with Tony Williams and John McLaughlin, and all those kinds of collaborations.
I remember the Robin Trower records he was on. Your dad was on.
Yeah, and he did one relatively recently with Gary Husband on drums. That's a great record. So yes, my dad had all kinds of interest in music. But the nature of the game is you're always remembered for that one song.
Yeah, but he kept going. I mean, after Cream broke up, he kept going. He was with West, Bruce, and Laing for a while. Couple albums, I think, 1 or 2 albums with Leslie West and Corky Laing. I remember that.
Yeah, I actually about 12 or 13 years ago, I worked with Leslie and Corky for a while. I did some shows with them on the East Coast. I love those guys. Corky's still around. He wrote a book recently, an autobiography, and he's going around touring and still. He's Corky Laing's Mountain, I think he calls it.
Yeah.
Leslie sadly passed away, but I love both those guys. I mean, amazing characters, amazing musicians.
What was that like What was that like for you to play with two of your dad's bandmates at one time? All of a sudden, what was that like for you?
It was a great experience. I mean, I've worked with a lot. You know, a few years ago, we made a record called Heavenly Cream.
Yep.
At Abbey Road Studios, and that was with Pete Brown, who was, you know, a lifelong mentor to me. You know, Pete passed away last year, but I've written 25 songs with Pete Brown myself, some of which will be on my new solo record that's coming out next year. So, you know, I've been around. This is the nature of the business. You know, it's a business, and so you're kind of meeting the older generations, the younger generations. If you're somewhere in the middle like me, then you're looking back and you're looking forward, and so the nature of it is that you're always going from one project to the next, whether it's live performance or recording projects or collaborations or whatever. So it feels quite natural to me to go in and out of different things. And as I move forward, I'm hoping with this project, Sons of Cream, we're talking about making a record of original stuff, or maybe we're going to call it half and half and do some of Cream covers and originals, and see where that might take us as well. So that could be really interesting to try and do something really innovative. I think we have that potential in this band, in the same way Cream were innovators at the time. They took these disparate elements together, you know, psychedelia, rock, blues, jazz,
and they melded them together, all together.
Yeah, and created something new. And I think that the three of us, myself, Kofi Lake, and Rob Johnson, we have the ability to do that in the right situation with the right producer, the right studio, the right time. We could really create something quite special, and I think the industry is wide open to that right now. I think there's a lot of stuff that's become a little bit staid and predictable, and I think there's an economic element to that. You know, it's just the repetition.
Yep.
People know what they can sell, so they end up just selling the same stuff all the time, and I think it's wide open right now for new stuff. You know, because there's not a lot of it about. There's this tribute act thing. It's everywhere. You know, it's just tribute acts. The thing about what we're doing, we don't see ourselves as a tribute band. We see ourselves as reinventing the music. We're not playing it note for note, and it's all based on
Yeah, but
improvisation anyway.
you're not a
So
You're not a tribute band. You're the sons of the original band.
exactly,
There's no tribute there. That's you guys
we're
are it.
staking our claim.
Yeah. No, really. Tribute
Yeah, it's
bands are with
different.
it.
I mean, I've got friends that are doing that stuff. Like, hey, I'm the Jimmy Page in this band. You know, it's like, okay, cool. And so I bought a guitar that looks exactly the same as the one he played in 1973. And look at my shoes, aren't they the ones like
Yep.
in the photo?
Yep.
And I mean, that's really cool in a way, but that's not who I am anyway. So I'm just honoring the legacy. I think that's what we're doing with this
Well,
band. We're honoring the legacy. And we're
I think everything you've done over time is tribute to your dad. Everything that you guys, both you and Kofi. Kofi too has been doing the same thing, trying to keep the music alive. Your dad's music, both of you.
Yeah, I mean, Kofi plays. You can hear his dad inside of what Kofi's doing. You can hear the African, the polyrhythmic elements, you know, um, it's amazing. You can hear like 3 against 4, which is one of the foundations of, or 2 against 3. The polyrhythmic
Yep.
aspect to African music that is at the heart of a lot of African music. The thing, that's what Ginger did. He was one of the original people. World music. He's one of the original people that went to different cultures and collaborated with people. In Ginger's instance, with Fela Kuti and other African musicians, and even on Fresh Cream's first album, 1966, you hear those elements. It's
Yep.
astonishing, really, to
Yep.
think about it. And so Kofi grew up around that and took that and developed his own way of doing it. So even though you hear, and I had the good fortune to work with Ginger myself on the Heavenly Cream, most recently on the Heavenly Cream record, and he was a complete master of his craft, but such a different musician to Kofi. Kofi's taken what his dad did and found his own way in it.
Yep.
And that's really interesting. It's beautiful what Kofi does. It's so unique.
So
Um,
yeah, don't call yourself a tribute band because you're not, because you're the sons of the originals. There you go.
exactly. We
And
are the sons of Pete.
you're the real deal though, because they're not only one member's left, and he's not touring that much either. Eric.
He's still doing stuff, but he's getting older. He doesn't wouldn't need to do another thing in his life, and he's what an incredible career that Eric's had. It's amazing, and he's contributed so much, given so many people so much joy and pleasure.
Well,
But he's still doing, he's still out and about doing stuff when he wants to, I think.
let's talk about let's talk.
What would he do? Sit at home and do, this is the nature of being a musician.
Right.
You do it till the end,
Tell me about the Shadow Club. He was part of that, and you were part of that. The record, the Shadow Club. It's supposed to come out, right? Or is it out?
The Shadow Club is already out, I believe. I don't know how together the label is or anything like that. I was just hired to be the bass player on the record. It's a great little record. Pete, I love Pete. Everybody involved loved Pete, and it was kind of, sad because he was literally dying as we were finishing the record. He never heard the final mixes, but he heard the final tracking and he loved it. Um, it's a great record. Richard Bailey on drums, who's just an amazing musician. He's with Bob Marley and Steve Winwood and Incognito, all kinds of acts. And Joe Bonamassa is all over the record. Eric himself guests on the title track. There's a bunch of other guests too. So it's a lovely little record, but I don't know whether it's going to get the right promotion. It's already released, so everyone should hear about it, but whether they will, I don't know.
Well,
But
go
if
out and
your
find
listeners are
it.
listening,
Is what I'm gonna
definitely
say.
check it out.
Go out and find it. Yeah, it's a
Go
great
out and
record.
find it.
It's a great
It's
record,
really
by the
nice.
way.
Pete, again, we could talk for hours about Pete's relationship with my dad and their working relationship and their creativity together and their synergy. And as I said, I've written quite a few songs with Pete myself over the years. He was a real mentor to me and encouraged me and helped me. And so I understood, as a friend, Pete was a great person, but as a lyricist, as a wordsmith, he was something very unique. He had a clairvoyant sense to him. You could give him an idea. I could give him a title or a chorus and say, can you flesh this out? And in a very workmanlike way, he could just come up with something that was like, well, that was exactly what I was thinking. And you just grabbed that out of the ether somehow. And you fleshed it out in a way that nobody else could do that. And Pete at his best was, just incredible person with words. And, obviously his career goes back to, 1960, I think, when Allen Ginsberg came over, they did a big poetry night in London. So Pete could be seen as one of the kind of British beat poets from that era, analogous to the beat poets, Ginsberg and earlier Kerouac and all those guys. So, Pete goes way back to then, and there is a kind of that kind of anarchic element to what Pete could do and how he would turn things, a lot of humor and the way he used words was very unique.
Yeah, Kerouac.
So this little record is lovely. It's, it's got that, there's a track on it just off the top of my head called Psychological Dog. So it's a song about a dog and how a dog might mess with your head,
Well, you were talking about Kerouac. He grew up here in Lowell, where I am, the radio show is. And he lived right down the street from us here, Kerouac, growing up.
Oh, wait a minute. Didn't he live in a lighthouse or something?
Yeah, that too, later on.
Okay.
But yeah, he lived here in Lowell, Massachusetts for a while. He's buried here, too.
Oh, yeah. Really? Well, if I get a chance, I can come and pay homage to his grave.
Yeah, he's here.
And I should bring like a typewriter with, I think he used to write, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he used to have like all the paper would be kind of all joined together and he'd just type incessantly for days,
Yeah, Dylan came here to Lowell during one of his tours, 76 tour, and there's photos of him sitting at Kerouac's grave in Lowell.
Wow.
Yeah, you ever come to Lowell, you'll have to come to the radio show and hang out with me.
I'd love to, man. Well, drop me a line and after this and see if we're free. It'd be great to meet up in person for sure.
Yeah. So tell me about Sons of Cream, how that all started. How did you guys decide you wanted to do that?
Well, I mean, I've known Kofi for many years. We met when we were teenagers, and we've done different projects over the years, off and on. It's never really amounted to what it could in terms of potential. Various different reasons. I think there's a lot of karma to unpack with being the kids of famous people that famous, and the external expectations from management and record labels and all that kind of stuff. So I think we're now at the point where we can really make something happen. I think there's a huge potential, as I said, to make an original record and see where that might take us. Almost like a natural extension of what the original band was themselves. But we did have another project around 2017 called The Music of Cream. We did a bunch of touring with that, but the manager and guitarist at the time, they kind of went behind our back and sort of took it for themselves and fired me and Kofi from our own band after using our family legacy to kind of build it all up. It was weird. But they probably have their own version of that story. It doesn't really matter. So we're just restarting it. At the beginning of this year, we played a 20-day tour in the UK and Europe, which was really nice. We went all over Germany.
You are the Sons of Cream. I don't care what they say.
We are the Sons of Cream, but people with a certain level of mentality, they see an opportunity and they think, oh, I can make $5 out of this. I think I'll just manipulate it myself. Claim that I own the brand. This manager claimed he owned the brand, Music of Cream, and it's like, okay, dude, so you own the brand,
What does that mean? What does that mean, right?
He's going to take some entity around, like a tribute act, and sell it to a theatre level show and make money off of it. And he can claim that he owns the brand Music of Cream because he can, and sue me. Hey, sue me, And that's like, okay, so we'll just start again and do our own thing with it, which is what we're doing. And but you get a lot of that in the lower to mid levels of the, well, even at the top level of the industry. Everyone's got their stories, their war wounds in this business, you know. So, but we had a really nice tour in March, right across Europe. We went to Romania, played in Transylvania, and all kinds of places. And so we decided to carry on. We got a great agent in the US, and we're over here working it up. We've done.
Are you going to
trade? February, we're back here as well.
You're going to trademark the name Sons of Cream so they don't steal it from you?
What's that, sorry?
You're going to trademark the name Sons of Cream?
I think Sons of Cream is going to be the name we use, yeah. I mean, should we call it something different?
No, but I mean get a trademark so no one can steal that from you.
I see what you mean. Oh, my goodness. Where's the love? Hold on, I'm just checking. Sorry, I'm breaking the fourth wall here, checking that I don't lose my battery. But maybe we should trademark it.
I think you should.
Right?
Yeah, I think you should though, because someone will do it again what they did before to you.
Don't give them any big ideas.
No.
Oh my goodness.
But you get it.
I think because it's meant to be. This is meant to be about creativity, but I suppose I am taking the business side a lot more seriously as I move along. I just formed you guys call it an LLC, but it's a limited company in the UK. So I'm kind of, instead of now being self-employed, I'm actually a limited company.
But then you could sue them if you
I can sue everybody. Yeah. This is America. Sue everybody. I'm suing myself even.
There you go. So let's talk about the record you've been working on, Fake Humans and Real Dolls. Is that coming out this year or next year?
It was going to come out later this year, but I'm pushing it back to next year and having a strategy. And I've recorded 16 songs, but I've got a bunch of new songs that I want to record. I'm excited about it, yeah, but it's been sort of germinating over a long period of time. So sometimes we grow as a person. We grow and we have more things, we have more insight, different things. Another 100,000 scraps of paper that have been scribbled on and that will have to be fed into a computer. So yeah, it's a bit of a process, but I'm excited about it. It started off, as the title implies, as kind of social commentary about where we are, where humanity is right now, and all the crazy things that are going on. It's not taking sides. It's just trying to take an observational point of view. It's like my own internal spiritual journey, as well as the crazy world that we live in, the crazy, beautiful world that we live in, all the beautiful, amazing things that are going on, as well as the, conspiracies and the politics and the madness and how do we live within all of that, the artificial intelligence and the truth and the lies. And I think everyone would agree, how do we have a joyful life in the midst of all this crazy stuff,
it's not easy.
So, there's a lot to talk about.
And you're writing about it. That's great.
Yeah.
You're writing about it. That's really good.
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, I'm losing you a little.
Yeah, I said you're writing about it. That's very good that you're writing about all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think as a creative person, again, that's what I said before, the sort of genericism that seeped into the industry. And it doesn't mean there aren't incredibly creative people within that. There's amazing talent everywhere. Every block in America has amazing talent everywhere. But perhaps the forms that creativity comes through can be a little bit conformist, so I'm just kind of trying to explore in terms of what is a deeper, essential level of myself where I can express from. What kind of music might emerge from that? And that takes time. It takes time to discover those things for oneself, rather than say, okay, I'm going to write and it's going to sound like this band, or it's going to sound like it's going to fit into this genre, so that some manager that has no insight into creativity can sell it in a marketplace like a slab of meat or whatever. And I think that that's been very destructive to the creative industries. You know, we need artists to actually take a little time to find something to say, and how that's going to be said in a way that's unique to them, rather than just cookie cutter, as you guys call it.
Okay? Yeah.
You know, oh, I'm sorry, you know, we can't sell that. That's not commercial. It's like, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? You know, if all bands thought like that, nobody would ever do anything new. So I think we have to have the courage as artists. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm going to write a record like Anton Webern and expect it to be a hit in the charts. You know, that's not. I mean, that's a separate thing. That's the classical side of myself. You know, the more kind of freer, different kinds of genres that I am writing in and experimenting in. But you know, in terms of a commercial rock type record, which is what I'm writing, you can still within that do something that has a voice, has its own unique sound. And I think that we need to fight for that more and more, you know, in an industry that is against one things that sound, that conform to a pre-existing idea of what something should be. And I think that that's dangerous to creativity. But I'm also kind of, maybe I'm sounding a bit pretentious by saying that. You know, we just do what we do.
Yeah.
So
you write for all kinds of genres of music, you were saying.
Yeah, I think it's something I inherited from my dad, you know, for sure. And I try not to get too. I think everything goes through the lens of who I am anyway. And it's all these things we have to think about.
Yeah, batteries don't last long. When you
Batteries, data. I mean, I'm on a UK phone, so I'm the complexities of modern life. You know, I think once they put the chip in our brains, we'll just be thinking this interview. We won't have to be real humans anymore. We'll be post-humans or transhumans or something. It'll be a whole other level.
Well, let me get back. Let's go back. I didn't ask you this question about growing up, but what was it like to grow up with your dad in the house? I know you said you're laughing. You mentioned all the musicians that you met, but what was it like to grow up with your dad, who probably you didn't realize how famous he was until.
I don't think initially I understood that. Yeah. And by the way, if we get cut off again because my battery runs out, I must apologize.
That's fine.
We might have like 10 minutes left together or something.
That's fine. I only got a couple more questions and we can go.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, growing up with my dad, I mean, I love my dad. It was a difficult relationship. He was a multi-layered person, a beautiful person, very, very intelligent, but quite unresolved. He had, you know, he was a drug addict for many years of his life. Like a lot of those guys, you know, from that generation, he fell into addiction as a way to, you know, those things are complex, right? I'm not saying that as a judgment, as a negative thing, but you know, the complexities of being a creative person and particular personality might get caught up in all of that stuff. So there was all of that going on as I was growing up, which did have an impact on our relationship and continued into my adulthood. You know, I discovered yoga and meditation, transcendental meditation. So kind of that, not that I would say that saved me from the darker side of life, but it certainly has given me an insight into what perhaps we search for through drug use. We search for that deeper part of ourselves and the joy, but we're kind of using a substance to access something that we can access naturally. But our culture doesn't teach us how to do that. Our culture goes, "Hey, get drunk, man. hey, get drunk." You know, or do drugs. It's great, and because of course drugs are great. They're good fun, but you're paying a huge cost.
Yeah.
You know, the toxicity and the dysfunction, and the breakdown of relationships, and the people lie because they don't want to admit that they're doing things. So they start acting surreptitiously and manipulating and deflecting and all of that stuff that goes on. So there was all of that stuff in my relationship with my father. Obviously, when I was a little kid, I wasn't aware of all that. But aside from all of that, he was a very bright person that just he loved people. He cared about his family. He cared about his creativity, and anybody that knew him would say the same thing. There was two sides to my dad. There was the gregarious, beautiful, wonderful person, and then there was the don't get on the wrong side of him because he might kick the monitor off the stage side of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that sums it up. Generally speaking, he was complex, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
I learned a great deal from him, and I think a lot through just osmosis more than him sitting me down and teaching me stuff. Just as I got older, I started working with him. I would improvise at home. We'd play music together at home. We would record in our little home studio. So all things like that.
So you had some great memories of him when he was alive.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And he passed away in October 2014. So it's almost 10 years ago now since he left. But right up until then, he had a good 11 years of bad health. He had a liver transplant, and then his health was up and down. But he got another 11 years of working, and he was working pretty much up. We made his final record, Silver Rails, at Abbey Road Studios. So he was working pretty much 6 months up until 6 months before he passed away. He was working, and
wow,
and he just loved to make music. It was his joy.
Tell me a good story about him. Something memorable from your growing up with him, or even later on.
No, now you're putting me on the spot. I have lots of good memories. I mean, as I say, some of my best memories with my dad is just simply being in our house playing music. So we'd stay up in the evening, and he'd get on the Hammond organ. I'd be on the piano, and we'd just improvise. And those are really cherished memories because we can get a bit caught up with language and words and all that kind of stuff. And when you make music together, there's an unspoken understanding. That's the power of music, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my parents, my mum and dad split up when I was about 9 years old, and then my dad remarried. So I kind of had two families from that point on, and he had two families. So those things can have an impact. I had a stepmom and then half sisters and a brother and all of that stuff. So that can make things a bit complex in relationships between a parent and their child. But the music was what kind of
connected you guys.
Yeah, it kept us connected, and it kept us with a very deep understanding. And despite anything else that was going on, he always encouraged me, and he always told me, "You have great talent. You can do whatever you want with that talent." And of course, I understood his greatness and his talent.
Yeah.
So I always really respected and got a lot from that he was always encouraging. He wasn't always the best at living his life with all the stuff that he found himself dealing with, as I've just mentioned. But he always had a purity about creativity, and he always had a simplicity and a pure joy and encouragement in terms of other people's creativity. I would very rarely hear him criticize or put another person down creatively. He was always like, "Oh, that's really cool." He had an innocence about that, and I think that's really to be admired. People can get very cynical in this life.
Yeah, but that all the way came back to you as well, because you're the same way. From what you've been telling me, you like creativity.
Well, you're very kind. Yeah, I mean, I do. I still meditate twice a day, and that's a central part of my life. And it's not, anyone that knows about TM meditation, it's not a belief system. It does come from the Vedic tradition in India, but it doesn't belong to the Vedic tradition in India. It's just accessing the deepest part of yourself, which I think all religions and all spiritual traditions, that's what they're aiming for. If you can access the deepest part of yourself, you're essentially accessing the divine part of everything, the quantum level, the ground state of being, and that informs everything, because that's where everything is coming from. The creativity that creates this manifest universe is where it's part of us.
Yeah.
So if we access that, it keeps us in check. It keeps us humble, because we're not. Of course, I've got an ego, and I can display that. I can bring that out, but I know what that is. I know what that is. I'm not confused by it, because I can see where it's coming from. So I think meditation really helps me, but I don't even like that word. It's just sinking into myself and experiencing those deeper layers and levels of myself, so that it keeps my awareness is coming from the deeper part of myself rather than a more superficial part of myself. So I'm really grateful to understood that process. And I think it but you don't need, the Christians might call it grace. It might just happen naturally. There's all different ways of looking at it.
But it's beneficial for you, which is good. It continues to keep you creative. You dig deeper, and
Oh, I missed.
I said
Sorry, say it again.
basically what I said is it's part of you now, and you
Well,
dig
it
deep.
is who we all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is what we are. What we are is the divine. You can call it God, or you can call it. It doesn't really matter. We're the wave on the ocean of
Yeah,
being.
yeah.
So we are all one thing at the root. And if we wanted to get scientific, we could argue that God or the divine intelligence has been discovered by science now, because quantum physics is discovering that ground state of beingness. So consciousness is all there is. There is no physical universe separate from consciousness, because the awareness of the universe is all there is. If I'm not here anymore, I can't prove that it exists anymore. Therefore, it doesn't exist anymore. And it's the same for each individual experiencing it in that way. So without getting too off the beaten track, I think.
Sorry to say we lost a few moments of Malcolm's interview due to technical problems, but people can go online to find Malcolm and all his projects at malcombrucemusic.com. They can also find the Sons of Cream tour dates coming up locally, and his Facebook page is facebook.com/Malcolm Bruce Music. You're listening to 91.5 WUML Lowell Blues Deluxe.